Hello, and welcome back to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. For this upload, we will be reading Leviticus chapter 22. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and to his sons, that they separate themselves from the holy things of the children of Israel, and that they profane not my holy name in those things which they hallow unto me. I am the Lord. Say unto them, Whosoever he be of all your seed among your generations, that goeth unto the holy things which the children of Israel hallow unto the Lord, having his uncleanness upon him, that soul shall be cut off from my presence. I am the Lord. What man soever of the seed of Aaron is a leper, or hath a running issue, he shall not eat of the holy things until he be clean. And whoso toucheth anything that is unclean by the dead, or a man whose seed goeth from him, or whosoever toucheth any creeping thing, whereby he may be made unclean, or a man of whom he may take uncleanness, whatsoever uncleanness he hath, the soul which hath touched any such shall be unclean until even, and shall not eat of the holy things, unless he wash his flesh with water. And when the sun is down, he shall be clean, and shall afterward eat of the holy things, because it is his food. That which dieth of itself, or is torn with beasts, he shall not eat to defile himself therewith. I am the Lord. They shall therefore keep mine ordinance, lest they bear sin for it, and die therefore, if they profane it. I, the Lord, do sanctify them. There shall no stranger eat of the holy thing. A sojourner of the priest, or an hired servant, shall not eat of the holy thing, but if the priest buy any soul with his money, he shall eat of it, and he that is born in his house, they shall eat of his meat. If the priest's daughter also be married unto a stranger, she may not eat of an offering of the holy things. But if the priest's daughter be a widow, or divorced, and have no child, and is returned unto her father's house as in her youth, she shall eat of her father's meat, but there shall be no stranger eat thereof. And if a man eat of the holy thing unwittingly, then he shall put the fifth part thereof unto it, and shall give it unto the priest with the holy thing. And they shall not profane the holy things of the children of Israel, which they offer unto the Lord, or suffer them to bear the iniquity of trespass, when they eat their holy things. For I, the Lord, do sanctify them. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron, and to his sons, and unto all the children of Israel, and say unto them, Whatsoever he be of the house of Israel, or of the strangers in Israel, that will offer his oblation for all his vows, and for all his freewill offerings, which they will offer unto the Lord for a burnt offering, ye shall offer at your own will a male without blemish, of the beeves, of the sheep, or of the goats. But whatsoever hath a blemish, that shall ye not offer, for it shall not be acceptable for you. And whosoever offereth a sacrifice of peace offerings unto the Lord to accomplish his vow, or a freewill offering in beeves or sheep, it shall be perfect to be accepted. There shall be no blemish therein, blind or broken or maimed, or having a wen or scurvy or scabbed. Ye shall not offer these unto the Lord, nor make an offering by fire of them upon the altar unto the Lord. Either a bullock or a lamb that hath anything superfluous or lacking in his parts, that mayest offer for a freewill offering, but for a vow it shall not be accepted. Ye shall not offer unto the Lord that which is bruised, or crushed, or broken, or cut. Neither shall ye make any offering thereof in your land. Neither from a stranger's hand shall ye offer the bread of your God in any of these, because their corruption is in them, and blemishes be in them, they shall not be accepted for you. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, When a bullock or a sheep or a goat is brought forth, then it shall be 7 days under the dam. And from the 8th day, and thenceforth it shall be accepted for an offering made by fire unto the Lord. And whether it be cow or ewe, ye shall not kill it, and her young both in 1 day. And when ye will offer a sacrifice of thanksgiving unto the Lord, offer it at your own will. On the same day it shall be eaten up. Ye shall leave none of it until the morrow. I am the Lord. Therefore shall ye keep my commandments and do them. I am the Lord. Neither shall ye profane my holy name, but I will be hallowed among the children of Israel. I am the Lord which hallow you, that brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord. Summarizing Leviticus chapter 22. So God speaks to Moses to reemphasize that priests, or Aaron's descendants, have special traditions that they need to follow. Verse 3, the priests are not to serve while having uncleanness on them. and the punishment is that person will be cut off from God's presence. Verse 4, God specifies some of the things that would make the person unclean. Now, the last chapter, we discussed that priests can't serve if they have certain types of disabilities or skin conditions, if they can't walk or if they're blind. So, if his descendants are born with those conditions or disabilities or disfigurements, they cannot serve fully as priests. So, again, this is being mentioned, but God is also specifying that if the person has a disease or a discharge, leprous disease or discharge, or if they were, verse 4 here, uh, touches anything that's unclean, or with a man who's had a recent emission of semen, these are all things that would make a person, a descendant, unclean to be able to participate in their priest services. Um, and so the allotment from these offerings we see in Leviticus chapter 2, verse 10, Leviticus chapter 5, verse 12, and Leviticus chapter 6, verse 17 through 18. Priests had a specific allotment from God that uh, they were given, granted access to for serving as priest. So back to verse 4. Oh, that's Leviticus chapter 22. I think I'll be organized and then I'll get up here and I'm always like, I'm just not going to cut everything out. This is what it means to be human and to read the Bible, because if everyone could do it effortlessly, then we would have read it by now, right? Okay. So back to Leviticus chapter 22, verse 4. So leprosy or discharge is what makes a priest unclean, but other ways that a priest would be unclean is experiencing or being touched by a man with recent semen emission or touching a carcass. Verse 5, touching a creeping thing or an unclean person would make him unclean. So, in any scenario of either one or a combination of the three, the priest is unclean until evening and must wash with water before he can eat the sacred allotment. And after they wash with water, then the sun also has to have set in order for them to be uh, eligible to participate in eating the holy allotment from the offerings. Verse 8. This verse 8. Okay. Verse 8. Animals that die of natural causes or from other animals shouldn't be eaten. It defiles the consumer. Verse 10. A visitor or hired servant cannot eat the sacrifice allotment. Verse 11. Only those purchased by a priest or directly related to the priest can eat the sacrifice allotment. Verse 12 to 13. A woman that is a relative of the priest, a daughter, can eat the offering allotment if she's childless, if she's a childless widow, or if she's a childless divorcee, and she is returned to the father as in her youth. And this is not saying this is as in is a comparison. So this is not saying she's still in her youth. It's as in her youth, in the condition that she was in when she was in her youth, with no dependence and with no attachment to a man. Again, uh, impacting her accesses to resources. So verse 14, anyone who eats the holy allotment accidentally must pay for what's eaten and add a 20% or a fifth part of what's the percentage that's been eaten, add on top of the payment for what's actually been eaten, and that should be given to the priest. Not adhering to this ordinance causes the person to be guilty of trespass. verse 18, Israelites or strangers that make burnt offerings as a free will or vow oblation must offer an unblemished male bull, sheep, or goat. That's what it's saying in the King James Version. The beat of the beeves. Beeves is an antiquated term for bull. Verse 21 reemphasizes the animal is to be unblemished, which is defined as uh, not having any abnormal growths, much like the requirements for the priest in the previous chapter. Um, a wen is an abnormal growth. Again, the same types of things. So, no abnormal growths. The animal can't be blind, it can't be injured, maimed, deformed, or have any skin conditions. But verse 23 says a bull or a lamb having superfluous, uh, and superfluous can mean extra or it can mean like this too long or too short. A bull or a lamb can have this type of condition or not enough. So either elongated, stunted, lacking its parts. So if it's not enough parts, or maybe one is longer than the other, that can only apply to a bull or a lamb. And it's fine for a free will or voluntary or peace offering, but not for a vow. The vow won't be honored. So those type of animals, bull or lamb, having this type of condition can only be used for free will. Verse 24. Do not offer bruised, crushed, broken, or cut animals. And do not allow strangers or visitors to offer animals that are blemished. And we just covered what blemish means. Um, Verse 25, God explains that these animals that have these blemishes, they have corruption in them. So this is why God doesn't want these types of animals used as offerings. Verse 27, when a bull, lamb, or goat is born, it must remain with the mother 7 days. And the dam, that's like dame, another antiquated term. So that's what it's saying. It must remain with the mother for 8 days before it's acceptable as an offering to God. Do not slaughter a female animal and its offspring in the same day. It's a little bit savage there to off a whole family. Verse 29, a thanksgiving offering should be eaten in the same day. God repeats that Israel should keep God's commandments because he is their God. So, chapter 22 highlights a priest is unclean if he experienced semen emission or was touched by a man who experienced semen emission. So, the way this is written in the King James Version, that man, whoever the seed is a leper, uh, or a man whose seed goeth from him, and whoso touches anything that is unclean by the dead, or a man whose seed goeth from him. I thought about this, and it just be, I feel like I still can't tell. I'm assuming the priest is not the one who had a recent emission of semen, but the thing about that is, I mean, how are you going to know? Is it still on your hands? Do these people have a certain look or something? Because I'm assuming if you had this happen and you're a male, you're probably doing this in privacy, and then you come to church later. So, I mean, because so far it doesn't seem like God is talking to Aaron directly, and even if he was, I just, maybe because of how I've experienced God, I don't think God's going to point out a person, hey, that person just did that, so don't let him touch you. But maybe he did. But there's some, I mean, that's why I said I'm not sure if this passage is referring to Aaron or the priest, if the priest has recently experienced that type of emission, because that would make sense. But anything, whoever has just had a recent emission should not be participating in any church activities. You're supposed to wash with water and you're unclean until the evening. But this again refers to um, Leviticus chapter 15, verse 16. Or this is what I just wanted to bring this up again because all God said was a recent emission, and there's only two ways it can happen, either through simulation with a partner or through the self. And God doesn't differentiate the two. And He doesn't, there's not like a punishment for that differentiation. All He said was clean it up, you're unclean until evening, and don't come to church right then. So I'm just going to bring that up because I just get really tired of small details being taken out of context when we can just read it and then things aren't taken out of context. Okay, so verse 12 and 13. When the priest's daughter can eat the offering. So it says here in verse 12, if she marries a stranger, and it's just someone outside of the family, she can't eat the sacred offering if she's still married to him. And I talked about this in the last video of how it's like her connection with the man changes her status and changes what she impacts, what she's able to have access to as a woman. So some of these laws are written, and some people misunderstand how they're written and believe that the Bible is written in a way that hates women or bashes women, when really the Bible is trying to get you to think about how severe our choices are and our connections to men are, and how you can bar yourself from certain opportunities if you don't really think hard about these connections. And it's much more severe for the woman than it is for the man. So that's why it's written so harshly, so that we'll think about it. But if you just repeat what somebody else said, you're not going to ever think about it. And again, here, if the daughter is widowed or divorced and has no child and returns to her father's house, then she can eat of her father's food. But once she makes certain types of connections, she won't be eligible for that anymore. Then she has to be completely severed from the man, widowed or divorced. So the next thing I wanted to discuss was Leviticus or this chapter, but verse 20. So blemished animals, deformed or disfigured or disabled animals are not proper offerings. And then in verse 25, maybe I had it already up here. I did. Okay, so verse 25, God explains that with these blemishes or disabilities, there's corruption and blemishes in them. One thing this made me think of when I read it is maybe it was chapter 18 or chapter 19, or I didn't write it down which chapter it was. Uh, but we did discuss how the land, God told the Israelites, when you go into the new land, you're going to have to wait for 5 years before you can eat the crops. You're going to have to wait the fourth year. It's going to have to be consecrated or blessed. And then you can't eat it until the fifth year. So because there was so much evil and sexual sins happening on the land, it defiled the land. And then the land wasn't clean. And it just made me think of when God said there are corruption and blemishes. If the land is corrupted, right? And People don't take the time to let the land heal itself before planting food and eating it. Could that cause disabilities? Because that in human and animal, since we all eat from the earth, we all live off of the earth. So it just made me think of that when I read. And then lastly, verse 23. A bull or lamb with an extra body part can be used, but only for a freewill offering. Extra body part, or too long or too short or missing body part, it can only be used for a freewill offering. And a free will is like at your own will if you want to just give thanks to God. And again, when you're a priest, you have an allotment for certain offerings. I should look that up again. Which offerings are priests allowed to eat? But because it's not all of them. But the point is, like, this, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that if you eat meat, you're eating animals that have some sort of sickness or disability sometimes. I'm pretty sure that I have. But I just wonder, as I got into a discussion with my sister, and we were talking about how does everyone have chicken? And you have chicken in the supermarket, you have chicken in every restaurant, you have chicken. You can get chicken anywhere, any drive through, any restaurant, any grocery store. How is it all chicken? And like chicken is the main meat that I eat. And I don't like fish as much as chicken. It's just something that I think about, but I just cast my cares onto the Lord. If you do a good enough job to trick me, I'll eat it, sauce it up, sauce up that rat cat. Okay, so then there's one more thing that I want to look up. I forgot. Okay, so ye shall not offer unto the Lord that which is bruised or crushed or broken or cut. And this is actually referring to testicles when it's saying broken or damaged testicles or castrated. And I just was like, where did that come from? Because I looked this up. This is verse 24. This is the Interlinear Bible. And the reason why I come to this, if I have a discrepancy, Bible Ref is one of the best tools that I use to help me understand the Bible. The only thing about that is this is 6 translations of English. And sometimes a translation is created from a previous translation instead of translated directly from the Hebrew. The Hebrew is the original text that the Bible was written in. That's why if I have a discrepancy with one of the English translations, I'll go ahead and look it up here. Or if I just want to know something like this, because it's like, where did testicles come from? Right? So this is verse 24. It's also numbered differently, which I'm trying to be okay with this type style of reading. But Hebrew was written from right to left, and so you'll see how like it shall be accepted, and what is bruised or crushed or torn or cut not you shall offer. So even that is like the wording is just, it can get tedious. So, or torn or cut not you shall offer to Yahweh, nor any offering of them. So this is verse 24, and this is verse 25 now with this number. So this is not telling us where a testicles came from. You know, I don't want this is a Christian, wholesome Christian channel. So I know I was just talking about manly emissions, and now we're talking about testicles. So I hope that is not throwing you off. But I am just reading the word. Okay, so that's the last thing. It's just when I read that, and I'm like, the King James Version doesn't say anything about testicles. But then all of these say testicles. Like, where did that come from? And then when I look up the original version, because I'm like, okay, well, maybe. And it doesn't even say it here. So what is bruised or crushed or torn or cut? It's like, where did you get that from? And why did all of these translations have it, but not the King James? And so, maybe I missed it. Maybe I missed it. But that's why it's important to read for yourself, because sometimes you miss something. You'll go back and you read it again, you know? Like, one thing I noticed, I listened to a sermon recently, and um, sometimes preachers would talk about relationships or whatever, and I heard a preacher say, like, God brought Adam to Eve, or God, that's not how it happened. God brought Eve to Adam. God knew that Adam had no game, he had no experience with women, he was incompetent. So God said, you know what? I guess because I created you, I see that you not enough, I'll bring Eve to you. So the first man had the first woman brought to him. He didn't have to go chase her and find her. But the world that we live in now, we that's changed. But that is not that is not what I was talking about at all. But I just wanted to mention that because it's just small things like that. Like, the Bible doesn't say what kind of fruit the fruit of good and evil is, but everyone always calls it an apple, and it's like, how did you know it was an apple? It could have been a kiwi, could have been a plum. I like nectarines. I would have liked for it to be a nectarine, but Okay, I guess I have nothing else to add. That was Leviticus chapter 22, and the next upload will be Leviticus chapter 23. I really appreciate you watching up until this point. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.